It's our pleasure.
Our pleasure.
It's our pleasure.
So welcome to the Holistic Kid Show. My name is Zane.
My name is Qasim.
And my name's Imad.
We're the Holistic Kids here to educate us kids from the inside out. Wow, can't you imagine that our last podcast was last year?
What, really?
Yes, because we are in the new year.
So happy New Year.
We have been hearing a lot about resolutions in this new year. Be the new you.
But I like myself. Why would I want to be a new me?
You're right. We just need to use this time to reboot our health so we can be the best for 2024. For many, the start of a new year ushers in self-reflection and how to be better versions of ourselves and ways to achieve that vision. So where do we start? The health and self-improvement world can be very overwhelming. According to Harvard Medical School, you should dream big, but they think tiny and break down your goals into smaller steps. That all you can get is where you want to go, is where you want to be.
So what steps should we take?
That is why we have the best guest to help. Now, let's figure out what we could do this year to rebuild our health. Dr. Lauryn is here with us today. Dr. Lauryn is so inspirational. She is a Doctor of Occupational Therapy, Nutrition Therapy Practitioner, Functional Medicine Practitioner, Health Journalist, and Speaker with over 20 years of clinical and personal experience, specializing in gut health, intuitive eating, food freedom, and anxiety. She also has published. She's also a published journalist, and her work has been featured in Oxygen Magazine, Women's Health, Paleo Magazine, Breaking Muscle, CrossFit Inc, USA Today, ABS, and CBS News. She lives in Austin, and in her spare time, you can find her hiking outside on trails and writing blogs, squatting heavy barbells, cooking yummy food, and spending time with the people she loves. So thank you so much for being here.
I'm so excited to be here, guys. Thanks for hosting me.
It's our pleasure.
It's our pleasure.
Amazing. New year, new us.
So how did you get so into food? What is your story?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I got into an interest in food and like holistic health at a really young age. I was about 9 or 10 years old, actually, when I went on my first diet. And I would say it was not in a healthy mindset that I did. I was at 4th grade recess, and I was 10 years old at the time, and the popular girls invited me to join their little gossip circle. And the topic of weight came up at that time. And so the most popular girl in town or in school, she said she weighed a weight that was about 10 pounds less than me. So I remember going home that day and deciding like I wanted to lose weight. And that really started a journey for me on my health journey that I didn't know later would actually set me up to do the work I do now to help people actually have a healthy body image and a healthy relationship with food, because my relationship with food was not very healthy from that age, about 10 till I was in my 20s, and really dieted a lot and did every single diet under the sun. There's carnivore, there's keto, there's paleo, there's vegan, vegetarian, and told what foods were good or bad for me. And all that to say is I came out on the other side after almost nearly dying from that experience because I was so unwell. I developed something called anorexia, an eating disorder, and decided I wanted to be well in that near-death experience when I was in a hospital bed and doctors saying I may not make it. And so when I got out of the hospital and out of treatment, spent a year in treatment for that eating disorder, I decided life was going to be different on the other side, and I was going to find a new path, and which I did. And I really began to see food as fuel, and like food is our life source and our energy source to do what we're meant to do in life. So host a podcast, write a best-selling book, etc. So the health and wellness world is super overwhelming. And yeah, most kids know they want to be their best self, but they don't know where to start. So that's kind of what got me into the work I do today and to my interest in health. So I can help kids boost their physical and mental health in this new year.
So, what are your key places kids should start to help them boost their physical and mental health this year?
Yeah, that's a great place to start. And I think there's 5 tips I would start with. I have like 5 simple action steps if you're really curious and what could I do? It's new year, new me. Number 1 is hydration. So drinking enough water. Y'all probably have heard water is good for you. And do you guys drink water, by the way?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sure y'all been, your mom takes care of that piece of the puzzle for you guys, or has educated you guys on how good it is for us. So our bodies are like 70% water. The majority of us is water. And so water helps like us digest our food, helps us think better and clearer, gives us energy. If you're falling asleep like in class or something like that, a lot of times there may be lack of hydration happening. So drinking water, and a good rule of thumb would be about 8 cups of water per day. And then number 2, I call boost, and it's all about boosting digestion. So we aren't what we eat, we are what we digest. And so if our body is able to break down our nutrients, we're actually going to absorb them way better. And so to boost digestion, this is really simple. It starts in our mouth, and it starts with chewing your food really well. That's where the enzymes and the breakdown of food happens. I don't know, have you guys ever been like caught yourself like, and you look up and you're like, whoa, where did my meal go? Like if you've been eating food or maybe a snack, and then you're like, oh, my hand's at the bottom of the bag or something like that. And sometimes that's just because like we get distracted when we eat, or we're just eating on the go. But I want you to get a visual of like, if you're running from a bear in the wild, pretend you're doing that. Does your body want to eat food in that moment, like, or digest a chicken breast or digest dinner or whatever you're eating? It probably doesn't want to digest very well. So when we're not chewing our food and like slowing down at meal times, we're just not digesting our food well, which can lead to, again, like low energy, lack of absorption of our food, and some gut issues as well. If you ever have tummy issues or bloating or constipation where you're not pooping every day, or it's kind of funky. I talk a lot about poo, by the way, in my practice. But so boosting digestion is number 2, chewing your food really well. Number 3 of 5 tips is fuel. So like eating foods that are a balanced plate would be protein, healthy fats, and fiber or carbs with meals. So that's like the perfect 3. It's kind of like a plant that needs water, sun, and soil, right, to grow in order. So what happens if a plant is trying to grow, but there's no sunlight?
Then it won't grow.
Then it won't grow.
It won't grow. Or what happens if there's a drought and there's no rain or water to that plant?
It won't
It won't grow. It needs all the fundamentals to actually grow.
All the fundamentals. And so as humans, we also have fundamentals we need. And that's, again, proteins, which is found in like meats, like your chicken and beef and fish and eggs. If you're a vegetarian, there's vegetarian types of protein out there as well. Like tofu is an example, or like some people will take beans, etc. And then there's fats, healthy fats, which are things like, well, a lot of times we cook with fats. So like whether it's ghee or coconut oil or olive oil, avocado, nuts and seeds, those are some examples of fats. And then lastly, carbohydrates. And ideally in the realest form of food. I had a teacher one time tell me, if it didn't grow on the land, swim in the sea, or roam the earth, it's not real food. So like a roamer of the earth would be an animal, right? Mm-hmm. Swimming in the sea would be a fish. And then growing on the earth would be like plants. So like vegetables and fruits. And those are actually carbohydrates. So there's a variety out there. I love sweet potatoes this time of year. I love winter squashes in particular for carbohydrate. So that is number 3 of 5. So we have hydration, drinking enough water, boosting digestion. Number 2, chewing our food. Number 3 is fuel, and that's fueling our body with balanced eating. And then number 4, I call it rest and move and rest. It's kind of like work and play, if you've ever heard that concept. It's like yin and yang. So resting is like obviously not only getting enough sleep, but also optimizing our sleep. Do you guys sleep through the night pretty well, like pretty hard?
Yeah.
You crash. That's so good. And like some ways that sometimes kids that I work with, aren't sleeping through the night, or they have broken sleep, or they've never really like felt fully rested. Maybe they wake up and they just feel tired a lot of the times. And some ways to optimize sleep would be making sure the room is like super pitch black. Nowadays we have our devices. A lot of us do, like whether you're on an iPad or you're a phone at night, et cetera, that can kind of disturb our sleep closer to sleep because of the lighting, the blue light in particular. So just mitigating our light at night, especially that blue light exposure. There's like night shift things you can put on your devices, or just like reading a book and like doing, I like to do yoga and sauna at night personally, kind of getting away from screens. And then for movement, that's movement and what lights you up. So I've been getting into hip hop dance and boxing lately, basketball as well. And I love to go to the gym. What do you guys like to do for movement?
We like to play.
Soccer.
Yeah.
I like to do cross country, so like
Oh,
run.
That's awesome. Yeah. So like I think finding what moves you, whether it is a sport or if it's not a sport, it's like simple as play. Like the cool thing about being a kid is like one of your number one jobs is to play in life. And so that's like when I worked with kids in an occupational therapy clinic, our therapy was all just play. That's all we did. And so that's the job of being a kid. And so we helped kids be the best version of themselves. And so but what I would find when I was working in clinic too, and some of these kids were coming to me not feeling very well, whether their brains, like they had a hard time thinking, or like clarity, they had some ADHD, et cetera, staying focused. A lot of times they weren't moving their body, so they weren't just getting their energy out enough. So moving our body gives us more energy, actually. So that's number 4 is rest and movement. And then lastly, number 5 is energize. And this is all about bookending your day with a morning and an evening routine that just like energizes you and gets you to be in that best state, like mentally, like some of the most successful people in life, think about just like even Benjamin Franklin, like he would fish, I think, every morning before he got to work. And he's like a founding father. Finding your morning routine that like really lights you up. Tony Robbins, who's a big health coach out there, just life coach, he starts every morning with like a cold plunge in the cold tub to like wake him up and just get his body and his mind into state. I love to move my body in the morning. That's when I drink about 2 cups of water at least to start the day off. And then put something positive in my mind, like a positive book that I'm reading, like 10 pages or something. What do you guys like to do in the morning, or what's your morning routine?
So I wake up. I like to usually go downstairs, maybe eat or draw, or drink water, obviously.
Yes.
So yeah, that's just what I do.
What about you two?
And then I start my day.
That's a great morning routine.
I do like basically the exact same.
Oh, and I also, I wake up earlier in the morning to pray, and that's also kind of part of my
Same. Knuckles, love it.
So those that you were talking about are incredible tips that we can incorporate into our lifestyle. So we would love to dissect that a little bit. So let's talk a little bit more about hydration. A study from Harvard showed that more than a half of children and adolescents in the U.S. are not getting enough of hydration, probably because they're not drinking enough water. Boys were 76% more likely than girls. If we have difficulty with drinking water, how can we intentionally drink more water?
That's a good question. Well, one thing that I like to do personally is I have a water bottle with me that I carry a lot of places. And these water bottles have become more and more popular. I call it my baby bottle now. So, and every time, like if I leave a place, kind of like how adults, if they have their phone, maybe you guys have phones. I was in my teens when I got a phone, but like all that to say, like adults can't really walk away and like leave their phone behind very long because they like realize how much they use it. I don't know if y'all have anything like that y'all use in your daily life, not even a phone. But for me, my bottle has become like that, or kind of like a blankie a little kid has. Like they don't go very far without it, they always know it's there. And so I think that's been something super helpful. And it also gives you a metric. So like if your water bottle is like 24 ounces or 32 ounces and your goal is to drink 2 of those a day, then it's like kind of like you can gamify it. How have I been doing with that? That would be one of my favorite ways to drink enough water. And I think too, like how I said, I start every morning with water. That's a great time to like start the day off because your body's actually become more dehydrated overnight. It works the hardest at detoxing at nighttime. And so we wake up already in the red, is what I would say, in the water. And it's a really just simple way. I like warm or room temp water in the morning. It's like very easy on the digestive system. And so I'll get 2 cups of water while you're doing your morning routine.
So you really like quickly talked about the like more importance of resting our bodies. But why are like blue light and phones really causing problems with our sleep?
So yeah, that's a great question as well. And I actually don't have a blue light filter on my phone anymore. It's all been filtered out rather. It's all like night shift all day. So it looks yellow or orange. So when people take a picture, they're like, I hope this turns out okay. But all that to say, like when my eyes now see blue light, I feel like I am like, day number 2 or 3, like the way that the body sees that blue light is it thinks it's like awake at all times. And so especially at nighttime, like it's cueing your body to think again, the sun hasn't gone down. It's time to be up again. And so why don't we want that at nighttime? Well, it's going to disturb our sleep because we're wanting to like kind of wind down at nighttime. And cortisol, which is it's your stress hormone. It's the hormone that like helps you fight and flee from the bear that you're running from. But if cortisol remain high for too long, then it doesn't do good for our energy. And we can feel a lot of side effects from it, like from even our immune system. If you know friends at school that maybe get sick often, or we just feel kind of like run down or I had a lot of tummy problems as a kid because my cortisol, my stress hormones were so high. So it's a really seemingly simple, like how could this be effective shift? But by just like mitigating that light or like taking out that blue light at nighttime, our bodies are going to sleep much more deeply and we're going to recover and just feel more refreshed and energetic overall.
The evidence review published recently analyzed 33 studies which used brain picture technology to measure the impact of digital technology on the brains of children under the age of 12. And they had over more than 30,000 participants. The research found screen time leads to the changes in the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which we have talked a lot about on this podcast. To be the part that makes that helps us weigh the risks versus benefits and make the logical decisions. So they found time to spend watching television or playing computer games has measurable and long-term effects of our brain, and they limited their screen time limiting their screen time is really important. But believe us, that is easier said than done. What can kids do to control their screen time?
Yeah, that's a great question because screens are kind of like taking over society, right? And if we think about like our humans, like we are human, physiology has not changed. Like our bodies and what we need to function hasn't changed for thousands of years. Like we need movement, we need rest, we need food, we need sunlight, we need people. Those are some of the fundamentals like kids years ago, thousands of years ago had, and today our bodies still need. The one thing that has changed is our environment, and screens being one of them. Like screens really came onto the scene. I was about your age when I got my first computer. Like computers were just becoming a thing in most homes. So, and that's just like been, like a little over 20 years ago. So not even that long ago, right? And so we're on screens a lot. And then our screens kind of can become our babysitters in a way that, and like also addiction to it. And so I think it's the way like our mindset shift towards it. So something that I've done in the mornings, for example, with my morning routine is I don't let myself look at my screen for the first 2 hours of waking. Like I really want to be in a different headspace. And like whether I'm reading my devotional, doing my prayers, doing a workout, doing something creative, etc. And so I think just like kind of setting up a ritual on the front end of your day can be a really helpful. And then the way now, when I see a screen in the morning, it kind of feels like grubby. Like, you know, that feeling when you haven't like taken a shower maybe in 3 days or something, you're like, you actually feel dirty now. So when I see the screen, since I'm so used to mentally feeling refreshed and cleansed from not looking at my screen, it now feels kind of like icky. And so it may feel a little bit, it doesn't have to be in the morning either. Maybe you're using screens more in the afternoon because kids a lot of times are going off to school. And then maybe they're like on video games or something the rest of the day. And so I think it's just like that mental grubbiness. It's like you can have your cake and eat it too. You can do screen time and you can play. And so just that balance has really given me more balance in my life, because I use screens a lot for more of my work and creating in there, and maybe some connecting with friends on social media. But still, like, I love that I have that balance in my day, because otherwise, I mean, we have 24 hours in a day, 8 of them are maybe spent sleeping. So that leaves you with 16 hours. And if you're at school or work for 6 to 8 hours, that leaves you with about 6 to 8 hours. So it's like, what do you want to do at that time? And if the average person is on screens about 6 to 8 hours, that's like the statistic. People are like using the rest of their time away from work on screens. And like, what a waste. So I would just say, like, have your cake and eat it too, and just consider, like, what is life about? And is it about being immersed in a screen? Or is there like other things happening in your 3D world that are also fun, like playing soccer, engaging with your friends, doing art? Like, you can be a Renaissance man or woman or boy or girl on that.
Yeah, because like a long time ago, before there was all these screens, more kids were playing outside, and then that caused them to be a little bit more healthier. But nowadays, they're like less healthier, and that's because people have been getting more closer to screens, which have been destroying themselves, and they don't really see that, but
Yeah.
they have to actually start to see it.
Well,
This was amazing. You
Amazing.
talked about boosting
Amazing.
fuel. We know that if our gut bugs are healthy, our brain and bodies are also healthy. A new study reveals a relationship of gut microbiome on children's brain development and function. So how can kids optimize their gut bugs in this new year?
oh, I love talking about gut bugs, because we are microbes. Like, we are gut bug, basically. You guys are gut bug, and you have more gut bugs in your whole body, actually, not just in your stomach area, than cells in your body. So it's like you have trillions of trillions. We call them gut bacteria, really.
Mhm.
And our gut bacteria are the orchestrators of our body's show. So they help everything function well, down to not just digesting your food. They help our brains think. Your gut is actually it's called your second brain. I call it your first brain, because all of our thoughts, 90% of them come from your gut bugs. And so if your gut bugs are unhealthy, a lot of times we'll have more negative thoughts or more anxious thoughts, or contend towards that. Which is interesting, since 80 to 90% of most people's thoughts, especially as they age, like you get to be teens, 20s, etc., are negative thoughts. So if you think they're negative thoughts, I wonder how their gut bugs are doing. Probably not so hot. So ways to optimize those gut bugs so that you not only think more positively and just like are just a happy in general, and also that you digest your food and your immune system is strong and you have a lot of energy. Food is the number one way to modify them. And so other than there's something called a fecal microbial transplant, and not many people are doing that to modify their gut. It's actually when they take like a baby's healthy poo and they put it into someone else, because their gut has been so wrecked. So they give them a whole new, in a way, biome, because a lot of our bacteria is in our poo every day. So your poo is also a good report card every day. That's a great check-in to see how your gut is doing. But all that to say, food is the number one modifier away from that in research. And I talked a little bit about like balance. So just like our bodies love balance, like our gut bugs ultimately love balance. And so I also shared with you guys, I was a very big dieter, even in my teens and preteens, like when I was about your guys' age, and just like was eating all sorts of like fad diets, as well as a lot of like even sugar and processed foods prior to that. I grew up on every single diet under the sun, like Gushers, Pop-Tarts, Cap'n Crunch, etc. That was not feeding a healthy microbiome. And so real food is really the best way to modify your gut bugs to start, and like really leaning in back to those proteins, fats, and fiber, or carbs. If it didn't grow on the land, swim out of the sea, or roam the earth, it's not real food. Remember that. And then there's so many ways to make food delicious, that in ways that kids like as well. So I think I don't know, I don't want to speculate what you guys think about healthy food, because I imagine you guys eat pretty healthy. But when I was a kid and I heard the word like, broccoli, like my mom would encourage me to eat vegetables. Like there's a lot of stigma that like even cartoons will give off that we adopt as kids. Like, oh, vegetables aren't good, but we like cookies and we like pizza. It tastes really good. But you could actually make really healthy pizza and cookies that are also good for your gut bugs, because they're made with real food ingredients versus all this like processed food that's kind of like, you can imagine a goat. Have you ever seen a goat before?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so a goat, do you know what a goat eats?
Grass.
Grass, yeah. I would think it's grass.
It eats grass, but it also eats trash, actually. Like they will like take goats to like trashed areas like parks and let the goats clean it up. And like so when we as humans eat foods that are labeled as food, but it's not real food, say it's like processed food, which is 70% of food at a grocery store, our body sees that as like trash or like as paper. It's like, what do I do with this? I'm gonna try to get energy from it, just like a goat can get some energy from the cellulose and like paper it's eating. But the body doesn't really see it as food, and so we kind of force our bodies to digest and eat food that's not real food, and so it actually kills off healthy gut bugs. And so the more we can think about real food ingredients, and these are ingredients that don't always have a label, these are on the outside of the perimeter of the grocery store, or they have like 3, 4, 5 ingredients on the label, because there are more real foods that like certain industries are creating now. Even like, jarred almond butter may have almond butter and peanut or and sea salt in there. That's ingredients that's in a jar. But that's kind of real food is the number one way to modify your gut.
You talked about how your journey started when you were a kid. Today, kids are dealing with a lot of the same problems you had when you were growing up. If you could, what would you tell your fourth grade self to help your mind and body?
That's a great question. I think number one is just like you are good enough, and our personality creates our personal reality. So, meaning our self concept, how we see ourselves is how we show up in the world, and like how our life goes for us. So, if we have this like inner confidence that there is only one version of you, like your fingerprint is so unique that there's only one fingerprint of you and this whole planet.
Yeah.
I know that it's just like you really are special. And when we own that and we lean into that and really like recognize we have certain gifts and we have certain talents and we have certain qualities about us that we're meant to give and be something great in this world. Everyone has that in them, and really own that. Like, I wish I would have known that so much earlier, because it would have saved a lot of years of like chasing what I call dangling carrots. It's like, if you've ever seen the visual where someone's riding a horse and they have like a fishing line with a carrot over his nose, and it keeps the horse going forward, but the horse never gets the carrot. That's kind of what I was doing with like this perfect image of perfect and perfect body that never ever came. I never reached it because I kept striving. And so it would just be to just really embrace who you are and get to know like and refine the person you are and really accentuate your qualities about you. Everyone has beautiful qualities in them and about them. And if we would just own that, the world would be such a better place. Because otherwise, you can imagine a world where we all are wearing like a paper sack on our heads. Like everyone looked the exact same because they had this paper sack and cut out eyes.
That would be so boring.
It would be so boring. And so, that is just like a reflection of what we do when we try to emulate someone else. Is like we get away from being us.
So that was extremely empowering.
Empowering.
Because like you have to learn that you are you. Like there will be no one ever to exist that is you besides you.
100%.
Where can people learn about you and your work?
Yeah, definitely. So the easiest place right now is just my website and my social media at Dr. Lauryn, and DrLauryn. So Lauren has that Y instead of E in it. And then my new company called Total Gut Reset is launching in the spring as well. So totalgutreset.com. And I'll have all sorts of tools and resources and programs for people to follow, as well as options to work with a clinician if they want help in optimizing their own health too.
That is so incredibly empowering. Everyone make sure to follow Dr. Lauryn on social media.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lauryn. We know you are you are so busy. We value this time with you today. Let's recap Dr. Lauryn's key points.
So if you don't grow on the land, roam the earth, or swim in the sea. Did I get right?
Yeah,
then
exactly.
You're not real.
Well, it's
not real food.
Not real food.
Yeah, totally.
So 5 simple steps. Our bodies haven't changed, but what has changed in our environment, but we can control our environment to help optimize our brain and body.
Hydration. Number 1, hydration. Our bodies are 70%, 75% of water and gives us energy. Drink about 8 cups of water per day.
Number 2, boost. We need to boost digestion so we can absorb our nutrients. Make sure you chew your food really well. We are gut bugs, and we need more gut bugs than cells of our body.
Fuel. Number 3, fuel. Eat foods that are balanced protein, healthy fats, and good carbohydrates like fruits and veggies. If it didn't roam the land, grow in the ground, and swim in the sea, don't eat it. You can enjoy delicious food that can be real food. We do and we don't miss chemical food at all. We can find everything our hearts desire with real food.
Number 4, rest and movement. Getting enough sleep is really important for this new year. Make your room really dark. Read a book. Find something you love to incorporate movement into your day. Find what moves you.
Number 5, energize. Find your morning and nightly routine and that leaves you energized. And don't let yourself look at the phone the first 2 hours of the day when you wake up.
Remember, we all get the exact 365 days. The only difference is what we do with them. Remember, you are good enough. How we see ourselves is how we show up in this world. You are the only version of you. This year, own yourself. We need to stop chasing the dangling carrot and embrace who you are. Own that, and the world will be a better place.
This new year, let's make a promise to cherish every moment we have together. Here's to a year of better habits, positive thinking, real food eating, and most of all, loving yourself. What the new year brings to you will depend on what you can bring to the new year. Wishing us the best in the year ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lauryn. We are so honored that you could join us today.
So much.
Thank you all so much for having me on. This was so fun.
So thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Zansari.
I'm Mad.
And I'm Casa.
Follow my family and I on social media, Holistic Mom D, and look out for her mom's book. She's working on her 8th right now, and we are working on her 1st. So excited, so stay tuned. Kids need to learn from other kids. Please download our podcast and iTunes and leave a review so other kids and families can benefit. We need to work together to create a healthy future for all of us and the planet. Join us next week for another episode of the Holistic Kid Show, where kids are empowering kids. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.